Under the shadow of a cold mountain range, a girl named Alara stood barefoot on the dirt road, watching her family disappear down the hill. They had sold her, traded her for a bag of grain and 2 goats, because they said she was worthless, too quiet, too plain, and too weak to work the farm. She didn't cry. She couldn't. The tears had long dried up inside her. The world had been cruel since the day she was born, and now she stood alone, the wind cutting through her tattered dress. For hours she wandered aimlessly through the forest, every step heavy with disbelief. The sun had sunk low, and the cold began to bite. Just when her legs could carry her no more, she saw smoke rising from a cabin in the distance. With the last of her strength, she moved toward it, hoping for warmth, maybe a sip of water, or just someone who would look at her like she wasn't a burden. Inside that small cabin lived a man named Silas, a rugged, quiet mountain man who had lived alone for years. His beard was thick, his hands rough, and his eyes deep with loneliness. He had built that cabin with his own hands, far away from people who had betrayed him long ago. When Alara stumbled into his yard, pale and trembling, he thought at first she was a ghost from the forest, but when she whispered softly, "Please, I'm cold," something inside him cracked open. Something he thought had died long ago. He wrapped her in a wool blanket, gave her stew to eat, and let her sleep by the fire. For the first time in years, the silence in the cabin felt different. Not empty, but alive. Days turned into weeks. Alara began to gather herbs, cook meals, and clean the little hut. She never complained, never asked for more than what she was given. Silas noticed the way she smiled when the sun hit the snow, or when birds landed near the window. He saw the scars on her arms, the bruises that spoke of a life filled with pain. But he didn't ask. He knew what it was like to be broken by the world. Instead, he showed her kindness in the only way he knew, by building things. One morning, he led her to a small clearing nearby. There, a new wooden hut stood, its roof still fresh with pine. "It's yours," he said simply, "a place for you to rest, for as long as you want." Alara didn't know what to say. No one had ever built anything for her before. No one had ever given her a place to belong. That night, she cried quietly by the fire. Not from sadness, but from something far deeper. The feeling of being seen. In the days that followed, she started planting flowers outside the hut. Silas watched from afar, pretending to be busy chopping wood. But every time she laughed, his heart grew lighter. He had thought he'd spend his life alone. But fate had brought him someone who made the mountains feel less empty. When spring came, Silas carved a simple wooden ring and gave it to her under the sunrise. "You don't owe me anything," he said. "But if you'll stay, I'd be proud to call you my wife." She looked up at him, her eyes wide, then nodded through her tears. "You built me a home," she whispered, "and gave me a name when everyone else called me nothing." From that day on, the two lived quietly among the trees, a man who had forgotten how to love, and a woman who had never known what love meant. Together they built a life out of broken pieces, teaching each other that worth is not given by blood or wealth, but by the kindness we show and the hearts we heal. If you believe that even the most forgotten souls deserve love and a second chance, then stay with us. Subscribe to the channel for more stories that touch the heart, remind us of hope, and prove that even in the coldest mountains, warmth can still be found.